starting in 5 seconds. Mr. Deputy Chairman, Sir, I beg to move that the bill to provide for the prevention, control, and abatement of air pollution for the establishment with a view to carrying out the aforesaid purposes of boards for conferring on and assigning to such boards powers and functions relating thereto and for matters connected therewith as passed by the Lok Sabha be taken into consideration. Sir, it is a matter of great pleasure to me to pilot the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Bill 1988, which was unanimously passed by the Lok Sabha. I am sure all the members will agree with me that the problem of air pollution in the country, though not so serious as that of water pollution, should not be neglected as some of our cities like Delhi, Calcutta, Bombay, Kanpur, etc. are already feeling its effects. It has therefore become necessary to bring in legislation to control air pollution as prevention is always better and cheaper than cure, and this is especially so in environmental pollution control matters. Before bringing in this legislation, an exercise was made in my ministry to see whether the existing legislation could be suitably modified to deal with this problem, though there are certain provisions in the Factories Act, Criminal Procedure Code, and Smoke Nuisance Act they have found to be inadequate. Hence, the need for a comprehensive legislation to deal with all aspects of air pollution was felt. An expert committee appointed for the purpose recommended a central act and suggested a draft bill also. This draft was duly examined and eventually a bill to provide for the prevention and control of air pollution was introduced in the Lok Sabha in April 1987. The bill was referred to a joint committee of the two houses. The committee considered the bill in detail and presented its report to the Lok Sabha on the 18th May 1988. The bill, however, could not be taken into account for unforeseen circumstances. All the recommendations of the Joint Committee of the Houses have been incorporated in the present bill. In the UN Conference on Human Environment in 1987, in which India also participated, decisions were made to take appropriate steps for the preservation of natural resources of the earth, which included control of air pollution. The bill seeks to implement the decision relating to the preservance of the quality of air and control of air pollution. The present thinking in environmental pollution control matters is to have an integrated approach. To give effect to this approach, it has been provided in this bill that the water pollution control boards established under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1985 will, in addition to their normal work, perform the functions of air pollution control also. This will not only facilitate coordination but also will result in economy. The bill will be enacted by virtue of Article 253 of the Constitution of India. Sir, a few more words about the salient features of the bill. This bill will apply to the whole of India. The Central Board for the Prevention and Control of water pollution established under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1985 will act as the central board for the prevention and control of air pollution also. The state boards for the prevention and control of water pollution established by state governments which have adopted the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1985 will perform the functions of the state air pollution control boards also. In the states which have not yet adopted the 1985 Act, the new air pollution control boards will be set up. However, we are requesting these states also to adopt the 1985 Act and constitute the state boards so that there will be uniformity all over the country. The state governments will first declare the air pollution control areas. In such areas, industries specified in the schedule to the bill will have to obtain consents from the respective state boards for discharging emissions from their factories. The state boards will lay down the specifications for emission discharge and the particulars of the control equipment that should be put up to abate air pollution. Failure to comply with the consent conditions will render the industrial units liable to prosecution. However, reasonable time will be given for existing industrial units to install the control equipments. The state governments will also issue necessary instructions to ensure that the automobile exhausts do not exceed the specifications laid down by the respective state boards. This bill will, however, not apply to ships and aircrafts. This provision is made as there exists a separate law for the control of pollution in those cases. With these words, sir, I beg to move that the bill will be taken into consideration by the Honorable House. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, I support this bill. I congratulate the Honorable Minister of Health for bringing this bill. I hope the Health Minister is strong enough for implementing this bill effectively. This food adulteration and drug adulteration are very serious crimes. The offenders, like adulterants and adulterators, are both anti national and antisocial without any doubt. There are many kinds of adulterations. There are factories running for the manufacture of small stones in small towns. These factories are producing small stones to be mixed with rice. I have been affected by it. Many people in India are affected by it. Therefore, I would request the government to take very stringent action on these anti national and antisocial elements, the adulterators, and about adulterants also. There are so many kinds of adulteration. There is adulteration in milk. Nowadays, I cannot say whether the milk vendors are pouring water into milk or they are actually pouring milk into water. This is the extent of adulteration. I have seen it in many cities and also in villages. There is adulteration in tea leaves and in coffee powder. There is adulteration in mutton by mixing beef. There is adulteration in ghee. You are all aware of these things. There is adulteration in cold drinks also. Adulteration is no doubt a serious crime. It should be out to a stop by the government under these special circumstances under the present government. I would like to ask the Honorable Minister to advise the governors in the states to implement the provisions of this bill very strictly and to punish adulterators in rice and in many essential commodities. Even in drugs, there is adulteration. Many children, men and women, are killed on account of large scale adulteration, but the action is very poor. The baby food is also adulterated. In the case of drugs, I would request the Honorable Minister to bring an amendment in the Drugs Act to punish severely the adulterators in drugs, to give the maximum punishment of death sentence to the offenders under the Drugs Act for killing human beings. As my honorable friend very correctly pointed out, the adulteration is not an offense which is suddenly committed by these people. It is done in a pre-planned manner with an ulterior motive, with bad intentions, and with most criminal intentions. Even ordinary murderers under Section 302 of the IPC are given death sentence. I hope when a case is detected, tried, and proved of a grave act of adulteration, then the punishment must be definite, heavy, and exemplary, because unless the punishment is exemplary, it will not act as an effective deterrent. I would like to say a few words about voluntary agencies, social organizations, and public spirited men and women have a great part to play in all these spheres, and I hope the government will do everything in their power to see that voluntary agencies and the public spirited individuals are given all encouragement and assistance, because although the state's hands is bound to be and must be a watching hand on checking the evil, and it has to be a helping hand, the responsibilities must be greater and stronger. It is from that angle that the consumer's interest, the consumer council, and the consumer movements, as one sees in countries like the UK and USA and the other countries, must also be helped to develop in our country. There are certain defects in the bill. Under the existing section, there is a provision that the sample taken by the food inspector shall be divided into three parts. One will be given to the person from whom the sample is taken, the other is sent to the local health authorities, and the third one is sent for public analysis to the public analyst. The provision of giving a sample to the person concerned is a safeguard against manipulation and misuse by the food inspector and persons connected with his department. This salutary safeguard is sought to be taken away by amending the provisions of this Act. Therefore, it should be restored, because the government's intention is to prevent harassment of the honest traders. Secondly, adulterant has been defined in this bill as any material which is used for adulteration. That has not been defined in this bill at all. Only adulterated article and adulterated food have been defined, and even if water is mixed with milk, then water is used as an adulterant for adulteration of milk. Now, therefore, if water is stored, it will also fall within the definition of adulterant. If sugar is mixed in barfi in excessive quantity and the khoa is not mixed as prescribed, then sugar can also be said to have been used as an adulterant. Therefore, my submission is that there is no necessity of defining adulterant afresh in this bill. In the old bill, it has been laid down that any material which is used for adulteration can be seized by the food inspector. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Sir, I express my gratitude to the honorable members for the keen interest they had taken in the whole matter and for the many valuable suggestions they have made. Unfortunately, in the limited time at my disposal, I will not be able to refer to every point which has been raised by the honorable members, but I can assure the House through you that all the suggestions which have been made will be given full consideration by the government. I would like to take up some common points which have been stressed by a very large number of my honorable friends here. The first point that has been stressed by a very large number of members deals with the question of the care of expectant mothers and the care and particularly the nutritional care of smaller children up to the age of 6. There is no doubt that this is the most important period in the life of any human being, and any lack of effort in this age group can have very serious consequences when the child grows into adulthood. For this purpose, Education Ministry, in close collaboration with the Ministry of Health, Agriculture, and obviously with the cooperation of the state governments, has started the Integrated Child Development Services, which aim at all these points that have been emphasized. The concept of integrated child development services has been explained by us before, but I would crave your indulgence to explain again in a few minutes the main concept of the integrated child development services. It starts with the question of nutrition and health care of expectant mothers. Then there is a full-fledged program of immunization which certainly includes the triple vaccination. Along with this, there is the question of regular health checkup, referral services, nutrition supplementing measures, and the diet, preschool, non-formal and informal education. We consider it absolutely essential that children of the age group 3 to 6, and particularly those belonging to the weaker sections of the community, should be provided with such care so that they can develop proper attitudes and motivations, and also their character formation is influenced in a healthy direction. For this purpose, we propose to set up centers as far as possible in close proximity of a primary school to evolve elder children, especially girls, to participate in the looking after of the younger babies as a part of their work experience. It would provide them with adequate training to learn about how to look after children and younger babies. It would also provide assistance to the center's workers and a full-fledged training program of the workers has been undertaken because this was a new scheme and because it involved the cooperation of a very large number of agencies. It was felt that let the systems be worked out in a small number of blocks, and we have chosen 35 blocks. 20 of these are rural blocks, 10 are in tribal areas, and 5 in urban slums. This program is being tried out, and government would like to expand this scheme to a very large number of other blocks so that we are able to cover, hopefully by the 7th plan period, every block in the country. This is an important scheme whereby the problems of the rural children and the children belonging to the weaker sections of the community would be looked after from the point of view of health, from the point of view of immunization, and from the point of view of what may be called preschool education or attitude formation, and so on. This program, I am glad to say, has evoked proper response. We invited the medical colleges, and I am glad to say that 27 medical colleges have responded to our invitation. The All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi is coordinating the work that is being done by the medical colleges for preparing the baseline data about nutrition, about the general health of children and of expectant mothers, and so on. It would also be supervising the implementation of the scheme in other respects so that along with the administrative setup which is looking after this program, there is also an independent organization which can monitor and which can provide expert guidance for the implementation of this particular program. We have also insisted that in each village there should be women organization formed because without involvement of the men of the villages and the localities concerned, no worthwhile program for children is likely to succeed. The progress so far in this regard has been on the whole satisfactory, although I would like greater emphasis being placed by the state government on the setting up of women organizations in each of the villages. The state governments are anxious to set up these organizations as early as possible. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Provision of efficient and world-class infrastructure is critical for our growth aspirations. A key issue that bears repetition is the imposition of appropriate user charges necessary to provide adequate returns on investment. Some success has been achieved in areas such as telecom, roads, and ports where appropriate user charges exist. With the tariff rationalization and other bold measures introduced by my colleague, the Minister of Railways, we can expect the railways to serve well the key transportation needs of the country in the years to come. Other areas such as power, urban infrastructure, other transportation, and the like continue to experience great difficulty because of the lack of appropriate user charges. Restoration of financial viability in the power sector remains crucial. The average rate of return for all SEBS is about minus 40%, and their combined losses continue to increase. Hence, this is one of the foremost challenges not only in the power sector but also for the fiscal health of the state governments and the overall performance of the economy. In recognition of these severe problems, the Prime Minister held a meeting with state chief ministers on March 3, 2001. While broadly agreeing with the desirability of power sector reforms to achieve commercial viability of state electricity boards, the conference placed special emphasis on distribution reforms and elimination of theft of electricity. Subsequently, the high level empowered group of chief ministers and union ministers has agreed to a one time settlement scheme in regard to SEB overdues to the central public sector utilized through securitization and issue of tax-free bonds by the respective state governments subject to the achievement of specified performance milestones and full payment of current dues in the future. I would urge upon the states to come forward and implement the scheme speedily. The Ministry of Power has already signed memoranda of understanding with 20 states and is expected to complete the exercise with the remaining states soon. To redouble our effort in this direction, APDP is being redesigned as the Accelerated Power Development and Reform Program with an enhanced plan allocation of rupees 3500 crore for 2002-3 up from rupees 1500 crores this year. Access of the states to the fund will be on the basis of agreed reform programs in the future. I am glad to inform the House that the Prime Minister's National Highway Development Program, launched 3 years ago, is progressing well. It now promises to achieve a totally new scenario in the road sector. The Golden Quadrilateral will be completed substantially by December 2003, a year ahead of schedule. The north-south and east-west corridors have a length of 7,300 kilometers, of which 716 kilometers have already been four-laned. With the assistance of multilateral funding, other borrowings by the National Highway Authority of India with government guarantee and other innovative financing schemes. The funding for this phase will be fully tied up in 2002-3. The present port trust structure does not allow Indian major ports to have the flexibility needed for efficient management and for raising institutional funding. It is therefore proposed to corporatize major ports in a phased manner. Private sector investments have been facilitated and 17 projects worth more than rupees 4500 crore have already been approved and another 8 projects worth more than rupees 3200 crore are under consideration. With corporatization of the existing ports and new private sector ports coming up, the regulatory structure will be strengthened. The government has already announced its decision to upgrade the international airports at Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata to the standards of world class airports by inducting private sector management and investment through long term leasing system. Modalities for inviting offers have been finalized and the leasing process will be completed in 2002-3. Private sector participation in greenfield airports will be encouraged through a package of concessions, availability of land and related infrastructure from the state governments, exemption from levy of inland air travel tax and foreign travel tax on departing passengers for projects located in states that charge sales tax on aviation fuel at central sales tax rate, charging of advance development fee by way of additional passenger service fee at the existing airports for help in financing of the greenfield airport and levy of user development fee at the new airport authority of India. The proposed new airport in Bangalore and Hyderabad will benefit from these concessions. The 2001 consensus shows that the urban population in India is now about 285 million, greater than the total population of the United States. The number of cities with more than 1 million population has increased from 23 in 1991 to 35 in 2001. We are aware of the sad plight of most of our towns and cities as such. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. The foundation national integration at the individual level will thus be securely laid if every citizen of India discovers India for himself or herself, if he develops a strong patriotic feeling and if he continually strives to serve his country. But in a nation, groups are even more important than individuals, and it is necessary to lay the foundations of national integration at the group level as well. Every individual belongs not to one group but to several groups simultaneously. For instance, he belongs to his family, which is a primary group. He also belongs to several larger groups at the same time, such as his profession, his caste or class, his place of residence, his language or religion, his country, and ultimately to the entire universe. He has also a simultaneous loyalty to all these groups. No problem arise when the loyalties of these different groups do not clash with another, but very often their interest conflict, and then a method of reconciling them has to be evolved. National integration demands two things in this context. Firstly, it expects every citizen to realize that the interest in individual or a group are not served in their exclusive pursuit at the cost of everything else, and secondly, it also expects every citizen or group to subordinate its interest to those of the nation as a whole. It is quite well known that a selfish pursuit of personal or group interest often proves to be counterproductive and socially harmful in the first instance, and in the long run, it adversely affects those very individual or group purposes which it was expected to serve. On the contrary, if the larger social objectives are pursued, they yield good results not only for the society as a whole but also for all its component individuals or groups. For instance, a ruthless competitive effort by every individual to secure food or a job for himself may not necessarily help him to get food or employment. It will certainly not solve the social problems of hunger, malnutrition, or unemployment. But if all citizens and groups were to strive for abolition of hunger or unemployment in a concerted action, these social problems will easily be solved. In order to promote national integration, therefore, we must educate each citizen to subordinate his personal to the imperatives of national development in all its parameters. It is unfortunate that there are several anti-social forces which prevent the development of national integration. It is the responsibility of all of us to see that they are overcome. One such important force is regionalism. While one understands a certain loyalty to the region and a certain healthy interest in its development, such loyalties and interests are often overdone and attempts are made to spread feelings of hostility against people of other regions or against the nation itself. One particularly deplores the rise of several senas in different parts of the country which often carry on virulent and violent campaigns against the people migrating from other regions. One can sympathize with the demand that the legitimate claims of the local people in regard to local employment should be given due consideration, but agitations in the name of the sons of the soil can hardly solve the problem of unemployment. It can be solved only when there is rapid economic growth, not only in the region but in all parts of the country. What is even more important, such demands cannot be carried to an extreme position which negates the very right of every Indian citizen to seek employment and to settle down in any part of India, and no one can support the campaigns of hate and violence which are often let loose in the wake of even legitimate demands. Another important disruptive force is linguism. One sympathizes with the demand that the claims of every Indian language should be duly recognized in all development plans. This, in fact, is the existing policy of government, and several measures are being taken to see that all Indian languages, each of which is a national language, receive due encouragement and support. Special steps are also being devised to develop the tribal languages, and the government of India has set up in Mysore a central institute of Indian languages to supplement the work that is being done in this field by universities and other agencies. It is, however, necessary to recognize that in linguistically plural society like ours, individual language groups have to adjust themselves to certain national imperatives. We must cultivate English, and in addition, we must study other international languages also on an increasing scale. We must recognize that we do need a link language at the national level, and that this can only be Hindi. The national leadership has made it clear that the development of Hindi will not be allowed to affect the development of other Indian languages. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Feeling aggrieved and dissatisfied with the impugned final judgment and order passed by the High Court of Judicature at Madras in criminal appeal, by which the High Court has dismissed the said appeal preferred by the appellant herein original accused number 1, and has confined the conviction and sentence imposed by the learned trial court for the offences punishable under section 302 read with section 201 of the IPC. The original accused number 1 has preferred the present appeal. The prosecution case is elaborately stated by the High Court in the impugned judgment in paragraph 2. As per the case of the prosecution, the deceased was employed as a driver by PW1 to drive a taxi owned by him. On 26 June 2006 at about 6:30 a.m., the deceased left his house after informing his wife that thereafter he did not return, that A1 was also driving a taxi for some time, and in such a way he knew the deceased. It was alleged that all the accused persons had a conspiracy to engage the car driven by the deceased, and after taking him to a far off isolated place, kill him, and then to steal the car and other personal belongings owned by the deceased. As per the prosecution case, in pursuance of the said conspiracy, then A1 spoke to the deceased and fixed him for going to Meru in the taxi driven by the deceased. Accordingly, the deceased came in the taxi to Theru bus stop. Then all the five accused got into the taxi. The taxi proceeded towards Meru. When it was nearing the village known as Amma at an isolated place, the accused wanted the deceased to stop the car for a while. The deceased stopped the car as soon as the car came to a halt. Suddenly, A2 came to strangulate the deceased by neck. A3 and A4 tied the hands of the deceased, and A5 tied the legs of the deceased with ropes. Then they put the deceased in between the front and back seat of the car. A3 to A5 sat on the back seat of the car and ensured that the deceased was not crying. The car was driven by A1. The deceased died. All the five accused put the dead body of the deceased into the pit and buried the same. After the search, the deceased was not found, and therefore PW1 made a complaint to the police. PW11, the then Sub Inspector of Police, registered a case as under Section 406 of IPC. That thereafter an FIR was assigned to the jurisdictional court. That thereafter PW11 started investigation. He recorded the statement of the relevant witnesses. However, thereafter PW11 closed the case on 4th February 2007 as undetected. The learned magistrate accepted the closure report. However, thereafter, on the basis of a letter alleged to have been written by A1 addressed to PW22, which was received by him on 29th December 2007, by which A1 had alleged to have confessed that he, along with other accused, engaged the taxi in question, took the driver, killed him, and buried the dead body, and took away the taxi. According to the confessional statement recorded in the said letter, some parts of the car were taken by A2 to A5. PW22 went to the police station along with the said letter and handed over the letter to PW30. On the basis of the same, the investigation began. On the basis of the statement of A1, the place where the car was hidden and the dead body was buried came to be recovered. Thus, the dead body was recovered at the instance of A1. PW30 altered the case into one under Section 302 and 396 of IPC. PW30 arrested A1. During the investigation on disclosure statement of A1, PW30 recovered the car without engine and the gearbox from PW16 as identified by A1. On the disclosure statement of A1, the car engine and the gearbox were also recovered. As observed herein above, the dead body was exhumed from the place identified by A1. Postmortem of the deceased was conducted. Several injuries were found. On completion of the investigation, PW30 filed the charge sheet against all the accused. The case was committed to the Sessions Court. The accused pleaded not guilty, and therefore all of them came to be tried for the offense under Section 302 and other offense of IPC. The prosecution examined a number of witnesses. PW16 can be said to be the star witness from whom the car driven by the deceased was seized by the police as such. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. The country really offers immense attraction for domestic as well as foreign tourists. There is a large potential to be tapped in tourism. The sector holds huge opportunities for jobs and entrepreneurship for youth in particular. Promotion of tourism will be taken up on mission mode with active participation of states, convergence of government programs, and public private partnerships. Fourthly, green growth. We are implementing many programs for green fuel, green energy, green farming, green mobility, green buildings, and green equipment, and policies for efficient use of energy across various economic sectors. These green growth efforts help in reducing carbon intensity of the economy and provides for large-scale green job opportunities. The budget adopts the following 7 priorities. They complement each other and act as the Saptarishi guiding us through the Amrit Kal. 1. Inclusive development. 2. Reaching the last mile. 3. Infrastructure and investment. 4. Unleashing the potential. 5. Green growth. 6. Youth power. 7. Financial sector. The government's philosophy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas has facilitated inclusive development covering in specific farmers, women, youth, OBCs, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, Divyangjan, and economically weaker sections, and overall priority for the underprivileged. There has also been a sustained focus on Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, and the Northeast. This budget builds on those efforts. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture will be built as an open source, open standard, and interoperable public good. This will enable inclusive farmer centric solutions through relevant information services for crop planning and health, improved access to farm inputs, credit and insurance, help for crop estimation, market intelligence, and support for growth of agri-tech industry and startups. An agriculture accelerator fund will be set up to encourage agri startups by young entrepreneurs in rural areas. The fund will aim at bringing innovative and affordable solutions for challenges faced by farmers. It will also bring in modern technologies to transform agricultural practices, increase productivity and profitability. To enhance the productivity of extra long staple cotton, we will adopt a cluster based and value chain approach through public private partnerships. This will mean collaboration between farmers, state, and industry for input supplies, extension services, and market linkages. We will launch an Atmanirbhar Clean Plant program to boost availability of disease-free quality planting material for high-value horticulture crops at an outlay of rupees 2200 crore. Now, India is at the forefront of popularizing millets. We are the largest producer and second largest exporter of Sri Anna in the world. We grow several types of Sri Anna such as jowar, ragi, bajra, etc. These have a number of health benefits and have been an integral part of our food for centuries. I acknowledge with pride the huge service done by small farmers in contributing to the health of fellow citizens by growing these Sri Anna. Now, to make India a global hub for Sri Anna, the Indian Institute of Millet Research, Hyderabad, will be spotted as the center of excellence for sharing best practices, research, and technologies at the international level. The agriculture credit target will be increased to rupees 20 lakh crore with focus on animal husbandry, dairy, and fisheries. For farmers, especially small and marginal farmers and other marginalized sections, the government is promoting cooperative based economic development model. A new ministry of cooperation was formed with a mandate to realize the vision of Sahakar Se Samriddhi. To realize this vision, the government has already initiated computerization of 63,000 primary agricultural credit societies with an investment of rupees 2500 crore. In consultation with all stakeholders and states, model bylaws for PACS were formulated, enabling them to become multi-purpose PACS. A national cooperative database is being prepared for countrywide mapping of cooperative societies. With this backdrop, we will implement a plan to set up massive decentralized storage capacity. This will help farmers store their produce and realize remunerative prices through sale at appropriate times. The government will also facilitate setting up of a large number of multi-purpose cooperative societies, primary fishery societies, and dairy cooperative societies in uncovered panchayats and villages in the next 5 years. 157 new nursing colleges will be established in co-location with the existing 157 medical colleges established since 2014. Facilities in select ICMR labs will be made available for research by public and private medical college faculty and private sector R&D teams for encouraging collaborative research and innovation. A new program to promote research and innovation in pharmaceuticals will be taken up through centers of excellence. We shall also encourage industry to invest in research and development in specific priority areas. Dedicated multidisciplinary courses for medical devices will be spotted in existing institutions to ensure availability of skilled manpower for futuristic medical technologies, high-end manufacturing and research. Teachers' training will be re-envisioned through innovative pedagogy, curriculum transition, continuous professional development. The district institutes of education and training will be developed as vibrant institutes of excellence for this purpose in future. Stop.